Reinhard Wagner, Chancellor of Germany. Mr. President, how good to meet you. What do you think of the newly elected president of Russia? To be honest, he's not a very pleasant guy. Excuse me, but I do not share your point of view. Timur Pitlev is an honest man and a decent politician. It's only thanks to him that Gruzdev didn't start another world war and somehow complied with international treaties. Uh-oh. What do you see in him? Why are you interested in our dealings? Your dealings have been costing us all very dearly for a long time. The sanctions you leveled against constructing the Baltic Sea pipeline are forcing Russia to continue pumping oil through the Eastern European countries. It's expensive. We want the Tumen-1 oil pipeline completed. It will enable Europe to trade oil with Russia directly without any intermediaries. So I'm trying to remember what the guy told us. Did he say he didn't want that Pitlev to be canceled? So you're the partner that Pitlev was talking about. Did you stage a coup in Russia to help solve your business problems? What will happen to the countries that the oil is being pumped through now? It's hard to know anything right now. All I know is that they'll no longer be blackmailing our partner, and Europe's energy security will increase. Will you help us? I'll consider your offer if you talk to my good friend Javier de Baca. I don't usually agree to such things, but for you, I'll make an exception. Here are the bills our experts drafted for lifting the sanctions. Take your pick, whichever you prefer. Normalization of economic relations between Russia and the United States. That sounds good. Limit sanctions on Russia's big pipe. That's worded strangely. This is an executive order. Recognize the sanctions were imposed hastily and without regard to all circumstances. Develop a program to normalize relations between the U.S. and Russia. Prevent an escalation of the conflict between the Russian Federation and the United States. Help our countries resolve long-standing hostilities. Or strengthening the relations with Russia. Executive order. Remove sanctions on Russian construction companies. Blackdrop and Big Pipe. Recognize the sanctions were imposed contrary to international law. Compensate the affected companies in the amount of 20,000? 20 billion? From the state budget. Send specialists from the United States to the construction area, the Tumen pipeline, to monitor compliance. Obviously, we're not going to pay that amount. I wonder if we can, like, take some of that cash. Why would I choose one or over the other, though? Let's try the strength thing. Just see, maybe we can get some of this cash. Okay. It's gonna lower our... Let's lobby. Colleague, I hope that together our three countries will have a wonderful future. I wonder if it would have gone lower if I had chosen the... Like, if the hit would have been lower. The ratings hit would have been lower if we had chosen the other one. Guess we'll never find out. Let me know if you guys are playing through the game. Buddy, Feist may be a piece of shit, but I gotta give him credit for keeping the Russians on a tight leash. Be careful about lifting the last administration's sanctions. The oil is pumping through Brezhnev right now, and that's a tiny country in Eastern Europe. Brezhnev is a complex relationship with Russia, and that pipeline is their only way of keeping the Kremlin from messing with their internal politics. The Russians decide they don't need the pipeline anymore. God only knows what might happen. Javier says, my meeting with the German Chancellor went extremely well, Mr. President. Medical equipment will now be delivered without any interruptions. To show my gratitude, I'd be willing to support any initiative of yours in Congress. That's two, baby! Paul Gordon, Undersecretary of State for Public Diplomacy. Mr. President, I know how busy you are, but there's an issue we cannot resolve on our own. Have you heard about a singer named Betty Barry? Betty Berry. You heard that before, right? I think even the deaf people heard about her after she published a revealing photo in a Jamaican flag bikini. It says, fuck you on her breasts. Okay. A Jamaican citizen accused Betty of cultural insensitivity in the comments. And in response, the diva told that woman to go chop sugarcane in South Carolina. Yikes. The protests in Kingston against the singer have gone on for days and are not relenting. Shall we apologize to the Jamaican people on behalf of our country, as Betty obviously has no intentions of doing so? Sure. I never know what to do with these. It just seems completely random, which is probably true of politics in general. It's impossible to figure out like how people are going to react to this, which is all that I care about. I don't care if I'm doing the right thing, right? We only care about money and approval rating. Matthew Lee Garden, Secretary of Transportation. Mr. President, the city bus drivers in Detroit have gone on strike. Although that's putting it lightly. They activated their emergency brakes in the middle of the intersections. They shut down the whole city. They have a single demand, that we get rid of the self-driving buses. We recently put one out in the field on a real trial, and the drivers are afraid this miracle of technology will rob them of their jobs. Shouldn't we meet them halfway and keep autopiloted buses out of Detroit? That would be a good gesture, right? Sure. Usually siding with the people has gotten us benefits. Allie, honey, I was browsing my feed and nearly got a heart attack. Up pops this super creepy photo of a pastry. Just look at it. The crust is colored like skin, and it's been stabbed all over with chocolate crisps and covered in blood red strawberry jam. And you know why we're seeing all this? This pastry was left at one of the crime scenes by the sexist car maniac in California, and he's still on the loose. The press gave him a nickname, Creepy Pie. That is creepy. Why do I mention this? We have some of the best pastry chefs in the world working here at the White House. What if we asked them to examine the dessert? Perhaps they could decipher something that only a chef could know. They could fill in some details in the unsub's profile. What do you think? Sure, I guess there's no harm in that. It's kind of bizarre, but whatever. So we might be able to get a third one with Rescue Wanda Humphrey, right? Let's take a look at that. Wanda Humphrey says, Mr. President, I hope you do not think I am a racist. I just could not tolerate that superstar missing the notes and bouncing on the stage like a, oh, please forgive this stupid old woman. This does not excuse my rudeness, but the entire situation is very upsetting. The sound editor who recorded my shameful behavior now demands I pay him $3 million. Does he think all politicians are made of money? Of course I do not have this sum. My reputation and career will be ruined if the recording sees the light of day. Do you have anyone to put some fear into the little shit stain? Conrad's the man. Oh my God. Mr. President, it looks like our apology only made things worse. Only Jamaicans cared about the situation with Betty before, but now the scandal is being discussed all over the world. A crowd of outraged people are gathering in Freedom Plaza as we speak to demand an apology from Betty. Yes! Plus 0.1%. Mr. President, the driver's strike was immediately over as soon as we promised to remove the self-driving bus from Detroit streets. I saw some sarcastic comments about the autopiloted authorities putting spokes in the wheels of progress to please the short-sighted blue collars, but the general voters' reaction was quite positive. And speaking honestly, for lots of us, me included, the idea of being successful displaced by a soulless piece of metal crap is a living nightmare. That's true. Help your ex-wife. I gotta get some water here. Okay. We need to find a way to make money. Ah, shit. Do we have to hire that guy for the... Oh, this is a way to get money, I think, right? Find evidence of Israel nuclear weapon program. Extract information. Let's send both of these. Let's try this. Joe and Sophie. Deception. Elite connections. She can extract information from a stubborn old man, right? I don't always have to send two. Let's try. Buddy, I'm glad you decided to take this on. We're not seeing the whole picture on the Israeli nuclear weapons program. I'll tell you everything we know so far. First, we should pay Moshe Peretz a visit. That's the scientist I told you about. According to my sources, he's a nuclear physicist and the leader of the Israeli atomic bomb project codenamed Colossus. The old man was out of his mind. He signed all his possessions over to his 18-year-old wife, and within a month of the wedding, she put him in a nursing home. One way or another, it sounds like Peretz just broke. It should be easy to get something useful out of him. There's another lead we can follow. That location where the lights were flashing and people were evacuated, if a nuclear test really did take place there, there must still be some evidence. But you shouldn't send anyone there unless you're sure of their cover. A lonely tourist wandering around near the border zone will raise a lot of questions from patrol service. So buddy, what should we do? Okay, I don't think Sophie was the right one to send. Interview Moshe Peretz and ask about Israel's secret nuclear weapons program. Cozy up to Moshe Peretz and ask him about the secret nuke. This would be good. That's what I was thinking she would be good at. Interview. Use some fake UN news service credentials to enter the area where the flash of light were spotted. Let's try this. Cozy up. Sir, how do you come up with such disgusting ideas? I went to the home, found this Peretz guy, and tried to, God forbid, flirt with him. The disgusting old man just stared at my breasts and drooled. I couldn't get any coherent response out of him, just a nasty giggle. Maybe you'd like to try something else? Okay, let's try the fake. Mr. President, I hopped from hotspot to hotspot as a young reporter, so I'm used to the pressure. I put on my most serious face and a fake name tag and waved it in all of the patrolmen's faces and got where I needed to go. I filled up my flash drive with pictures. Sand and sand are an uncommonly depressing combination, but maybe you'll be interested in this one. A huge FLAS 9765 light bulb, and next to it, under a hatch, a small room. I take it this is not what the Turkish president was expecting. My friend, here's what happened. They made up the whole story about Israel's nukes themselves, and then threw fuel on the fire with rumors. I prefer the theory about the secret underground nuclear city, but one question remains, what do we do with this information now? All the proof is here. There's enough reading for 5 spy novels. Project Colossus documents. In this folder, there is evidence that Israel is staging the existence of a secret nuclear weapon, a global sensation that in the wrong hands could lead to unpredictable consequences. Write a post! Oh God. Nuclear weapons are very dangerous. All because of careless eggheads. They didn't know what they were doing. I will protect you, America. God, that one actually made sense. The truth is ours. That's not my best one. I wish ba. Get on top of the real issues, idiot. Does Israel have nuclear weapons? Does anyone know? Okay, so 1 rating bump and then we lost some. Oh, these last few days have been a royal mess. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. President? I'm totally out of gas. I mean, I could always do with a pick-me-up, although I really don't want to end up like that ginger guy from Rich, Big, Fly, and Dead. Guess I'm due for an indefinite vacation. David Cedar, the Prime Minister of Israel, says, Did you really think you could pull off an espionage mission under my nose without me noticing, Mr. President? I suggest we meet at Face Place, as we've really got to talk this over. Jerome, the White House butler. Sir, you have an official reception of an Arab prince named Abdul Haid. I studied his file, and it is both good and bad news. The good news is he is an avid baseball fan. The bad news is he hates New York Coyotes and thinks they cheated his favorite team out of a deserved victory in the World League. Shall we remove the Coyotes' paraphernalia from the White House for the duration of his visit? Hell no! Phoebe Camper, director of the Academy of Nonverbal Communication. Mr. President, I saw a report about yesterday's meeting. The President of Turkey. You obviously were a graceful host, unlike your interlocutor, who clearly acted in bad faith. Kept interrupting you, asked loaded questions, and wouldn't stop grinning when you answered. But even though his words were cocky and confident, his body language was telling a different story. And yes, I am ready to prove it was you who remained in control through the entire conversation and not Farikara. Do I have your permission to publish the analysis of non-verbal signals that took place during negotiations? Sure. Wolfhide, head of National Security Service. Sir, it feels like there are more people trying to get into the White House by climbing over the fence than by passing through the gate. Each week we take yet another lunatic off the railings. Just yesterday, one of them attempted to ruin your breakfast. He took a swig of bourbon early in the morning, put on a sandwich board saying, I voted for Face. Tried to stage a one-person protest. What's good for an idiot today is good for an assassin tomorrow. How about we stop risking your life and electrify the damn thing? We're not electrifying the fence! They keep throwing these things at me, but like, there's no way people are gonna be cool with us electrifying the fence. Do-Face, nuclear troop. Hey there, my industrious little friend. You know, you really hurt David's feelings. The guy's been looking like death warmed up for days. You should really have asked me what's up if you suddenly got so preoccupied with Israeli nuclear weapons. Thanks for the offer, dude, but I can handle it. Screw you then, I'm retired anyways. Enjoy your cloak and dagger games, kids, while I go enjoy a nice Cuban cigar. Hello, Mr. President. Sorry for getting down to business right away, but I called you here as you'd gotten your hands on one of my country's most important and dangerous secrets. What's the source of your interest, if you don't mind me asking? Nothing personal, really, Mr. Sadar. Just a favor to the Turkish president. It's just that our vice president always wanted to know whether Israel has nuclear weapons or not. Well, knowing Mr. Estaba, I'm inclined to believe this. Somehow, I suspect this is not the full extent of truth, though. Well, what you gonna do now that you know Israel doesn't, in fact, have any? All I ask for, Mr. President, is that you keep this information to yourself. Turkish President Farikara must not find out. Why he? Why he? So what's in it for me? Isn't being able to sleep soundly at night good enough for you? This tall tale is all that keeps the region from spiraling into a bloody mess. Gaza is enough of a powder keg as it is. I should have picked the other one. Why he? Gaza is enough of a powder keg as it is. And if everyone finds out A-bomb dummies are all Israel really has, this means war. Turkey will send troops in right away, and Arab League countries will be falling over themselves to join the fun. Please leave this can of worms alone. Innocent people, an entire country's economy, and everything Israel achieved in the last 80 years is at stake here. Are you a pair of lovebirds done talking yet? No? Them politicians sure love flapping their jaws. Look, it's simple enough. No one must find out about Israel's theatrics. We don't want the whole civilized world to feel the fallout. Are we through here at least? Sometimes it's hard for me to read these because there's so many grammar errors. Are we through here at last? Great, now let's go have a few rounds. It's understandable. It's, not a big development team, and there's a lot of text in this game, so I understand. Those Face and Sadar, man, Shitbirds of a shit feather who will happily drown you in shit if they have the slightest chance. That said, Israeli PM is talking sense here. I don't know about you, but I'm champing at the bit to throw the clowns under the bus. There must be thousands who, like me, want nothing more than to know the truth. So, what'll it be, buddy? What do I get to decide? Are we gonna expose it? Phoebe Camper, director of the Academy of Nonverbal Communication. Mr. President, I published an analysis of Turkish president's behavior. For example, here he is puffing out his chest defensively. And here he's standing on the tiptoes to appear taller than you. The telltale signs of a man arguing from a weak position. A Turkish journalist replied in kind. They read your posture as submissive and your gestures as betraying an unhealthy obsession with your mother. I can't figure out why, but such nonsense immediately goes viral on the internet. Okay, we're not gonna steal the painting. Should we send Sophie? Let's send Sophie. She's available. I think we're supposed to hire the Ben to do it. Well-known video blogger who interviews politicians and celebrities. Used to be a prominent left-wing and LGBT activist in New York, but later started identifying himself as centrist, arguing that the truth is somewhere in between. He raised money via crowdfunding and bought a house in Los Angeles where he conducts interviews for his channel. Yeah, it's probably who we're supposed to send, but we're going to try. And then I need to get visas for some other people, I think, right? Estaba's witness. Ellie. My dear, I heard from the Secret Service that a new religious community has emerged on the outskirts of Baltimore. In Mifford Meal. That sounds delicious. They're calling themselves the Estaba Witnesses. These witnesses are too much even for me. For one thing, they have very strange rituals. For instance, on Sundays, they dress up in tuxedos and ride pigs around in their temple. And for the other thing, our Tony has a bigger halo than all the other icons in their church. On the altar, instead of Jesus and the angels, there's a huge statue of the vice president, sitting astride a pig. This sounds exactly like something Tony would encourage to happen. So great. I heard that the parishioners line up at their services and kiss the lips of Tony's statue. I don't know what else they're doing, but it's all just too much. Tony claims this is the first he's heard about this sect. He was aware he'd given the right to use his name to a group of strangers, but thought it was for a good cause. He says he didn't expect this religion to be so unusual. Sure he didn't. The congregation of this new religion are growing, and they've planned a procession this weekend along one of the main streets of Baltimore. According to posts on social networks, the local religious community sees this as an unacceptable farce and is ready to draw the line. So if the Estabas do take the streets, they may be heading into trouble. I'm afraid we're looking at a local religious conflict that could not only tarnish Tony's image, but yours too. We need to put this circus to an end. Identify the sect's organizer and make him disband the sect. Persuasion. Let's send, they're gonna both do the same kind of thing. So we'll send Audrish and 10. They say that one single priest is behind all this madness. He calls himself the Master. No one has seen his face or knows his... It's clearly Estaba! The Master has skillfully hid his identity. He always performs services in the vestments of the Pope and wears a rabbit mask. It's clearly Tony! The Baltimore bishopric is outraged. We have no legal way of shutting down this sect, so I suggest you focus on the ringleader. First, let's find out what kind of nutcase this master really is. What do you think should be done? Hack the security cameras and track the master's car. Chief, I managed to hack the cameras, but the master arrives and leaves by taxi and pays in cash. He only appears in the street in his mask, apparently wary of conspiracy. I wasn't able to make out a license plate or his face. Let's try cell towers. Chief, I hacked into the cellular operator databases, and now I can look up which phones are connected with which towers and at what time. I managed to identify several dozen numbers that were in the area of the Estaba church during their services. It's always the same set of devices. Many members of the Estaba witnesses are from the establishment. They're mostly wealthy bankers and businessmen. But it's impossible to say which of them is the master. They quickly gather at their church for services, then just as quickly disperse in all directions. Shit. Ask around? Costs us nothing. Mr. President, you know officials are often cynical people and don't believe in God or anything else for that matter. But to clear my conscience, I asked a couple of friends about the Estaba church, but I didn't learn anything. Interesting, sorry. We're failing miserably here. Condemn the sect on Twitter on behalf of the Vietnamese Buddhists and demand the master show its face. Let's see what happens. Condemn the sect on Twitter on behalf of the Vietnamese Buddhists and demand the master show his face. That's what we're gonna do. Mr. President, that may have been the most incredible tweet I've ever written. I don't know, I've written some pretty amazing tweets in my day. I've seen way better. I said that any religion is first and foremost about openness and honesty. And where there is openness, there's no place for masks. On behalf of the Vietnamese Buddhists, I condemn the Estaba witness cult. Okay. I guess we failed. Darling, it's just like I was worried about. The Estaba witness marched through the streets of Baltimore. A fight broke out, and then the crazy religious nuts were dispersed by the police. Meanwhile, the journalists were all over the scene. And all this outrage in the name of your vice president. And even though Tony still swears he had nothing to do with it, I personally don't believe him at all. Well, that was a huge waste of resources. We're probably going to lose 4.8%. This is a cult that tells more about Vice President Estaba than it does about its followers. Clearly, it was something instigated by the man himself. Despite no immediate proof, how else would this organization be established? Yikes, that was awful. George Verschabau, Deputy Secretary of Treasury. Mr. President, my colleagues and I had our regular conversation during the International Economics Forum. You know, who has a higher GDP, who loses most in the trade wars. Can cryptocurrency eventually displace the dollar and so on? And when we were out of topics, we decided to discuss who had the richest president. And we found out everyone had the actual data of the world leaders' income, except for the US delegation. Should we investigate the financial standings of the world's leaders? Yes. Wolfgang Stoffel, science advisor. Sir, I came across an interesting project from a group of young scientists from Arizona. They state that a human being is more than a sum of 30 liters of water, 44 pounds of carbon, 4 liters of ammonia, and so on. Anyway, they're sure about the existence of the soul and are ready to prove it. Unfortunately, even the religious associations are not ready to fund these guys. Sir, do you think the government could spend some budgetary funds to support this uniquely interesting project? Yeah! James Sullivan, head of technical development of the police. Mr. President, have you heard of a neural network implemented by some schools that allow them to read the mood and check the student's health? Its developers contacted us and offered to sponsor the large update. The new version of a program will be able to identify potential criminals with a 70% success rate. Our educational budget does not allow to equip all schools with this software. But what if we use it in the most problematic districts to recognize the criminal tendencies and start the rehabilitation of such children in advance? No! People will hate that, right? Although I'm gotta be honest, I'm pretty bad at predicting this stuff. 3.2 million? In this folder, there's evidence that Israel is staging the existence of a secret nuclear weapon. A global sensation that in the wrong hands could lead to unpredictable consequences. Maybe I should relieve the stress of all our team members now. Because pretty much everyone is stressed out. This is a good time to use it. Hey, buddy, you ready to party? This package will be enough for the whole White House. That was a great time, buddy. I'm sure your guys will work even harder after all that team building. Achievement unlocked, truly White House. Oh, yeah, that's much better. Much better. Up your ex-wife. Okay, I want to look at my administration again. I feel like this whole monthly income thing isn't working. We probably want to have lowering salaries.